Tottenham Hotspur have appointed Thomas Frank as their new head coach.
And the consistency and the players know the patterns. But of course I'm aware that we need to be flexible sometimes.
You look what Thomas Frank has done over the course of 7 highly successful years, you can understand why Tottenham would be interested.
Welcome into the Tottenham Depot. I am your host, Andrew. You can follow me at Astetka. You can follow us at Tottenham Depot. This is episode 255, and I am joined by a man who has made his jaunt to Europe, and he is back. He is at TC_Show. Mr. Todd is here. What's up, TC?
Any day, brother. Any day that you can talk about a 3-0 victory in the Premier League, which we will do. Any day you can talk about a successful European jaunt with no real hassles, which I can. Anytime that you can welcome back a long-lost brother is a good fucking day, just so you know. So all of the above, sir. All of the above.
And we are doing that. Dakota is here. He is at Dakota J Booth. Dakota, what's going on, my friend?
Well, I woke up on Sunday feeling like a champion, and that's because my beloved hometown won Knoxville SC, won the USL League One Supporters Shield Saturday night with a beauty of the goal from Babacar Dieng. And
I'm just going to give it to you.
Yeah, we love it. But you know what? It's just the beginning. We got 3 more games to win before we lift the big one. And the beauty is we're going to get to play all of the rest of the games at Covenant Health Park, where we have not lost a single game this season. So if the trend continues, we'll do the double sweep Supporter Shield USL 1 playoff trophy in year 1 of the new head coaching regime with Ian Fuller. So shout out Ian Fuller, shout out Knoxville. We love ya.
We love the local footy shout-outs. I do love it. I am so
Always
happy for you. It's good stuff. It's good stuff, my friend. We are recording this on Tuesday afternoon, similar to last week. Look, guys, the schedule is what it is. We got around to it finally. But we're recording this obviously a day before Spurs take on Newcastle United in the 4th round of the Carabao Cup. I still can't believe I don't just call it the League Cup. I don't know why Carabao Cup
It's the fucking
sounds
League
weird.
Cup, dude.
It's just a weird brand, but whatever, we're going with it. So we're not really going to talk much about that is the point of disclosing that information, because by the time you are listening to this, you've probably already watched Spurs either lose or be victorious at Newcastle. I know we were talking a little bit before recording. We all kind of feel like this is almost a free hit to some extent, because obviously St. James Park is a tough place to go, and if Spurs happen to get knocked out of the League Cup this early, sure, it would be a bummer for a minute, but then you just have to dust yourself off because the games are not going to stop, and there are so many more of them still to come. So I think that's kind of where we are at on that. I do want to go backward a little bit for us, and we did not get a chance on the podcast to discuss the Monaco match last week, a 0-0 draw. The first 0-0 draw in the Champions League since Dakota and I were at the last one, in fact. That was against AC Milan back in the Conte days. This was a match that I was fearful Spurs were going to lose it, because they were getting absolutely peppered with shots. And, TC, you asked me before the pod, did I bring enough crow for everyone to eat? Because we have to talk about Guglielmo Vicario, and not just the performance against Monaco, but he had another great performance at the weekend against Everton, 2 straight clean sheets. But let's start with Monaco, because he was man of the match. He did it all. Like the phrase in ice hockey is that the goaltender stood on his head, and that's what Vicario did in this match. He stood on his head. He prevented Monaco from taking all 3 points, because we certainly were not interested in scoring.
No, and unfortunately that's kind of a trend right now, especially from open play for Tottenham. But we've been quite critical of Vicario, for good reason, to be fair. He has, and still, despite his brilliance over the last 2 games, there were points, especially at the weekend, where I was like, just catch the fucking ball. What are you doing punching, laying out and punching for no reason? Just catch the ball. Mm-hmm. And those types of decisions are ultimately going to be the ones that stick in my memory alongside the world-class level of reaction saves. Because that's the thing about Vicario. And, we can say what we want about him as an overall keeper. In terms of his skill set, his reaction saves are world-class. And that's why he's in the Premier League right now and playing for us. And so as long as we continue to set up in a way that, and I feel this is all connected, but I feel like that's kind of what Frank is doing, is setting up in a way to where he's minimizing our weaknesses right now because of how many people we have out, so he can't really play to our strengths. It's one of the reasons why he's playing Polina and Bentancur. As I was out with San Diego Spurs at the weekend, and my guy Andy, I asked him how he felt about that, and he was like, he's playing 2-6s. Like, that's just his defensive shoring it up first. He's playing 2-6s, and that's why we're doing what we're doing. And the more I sat there and the more I thought about it, the more I realized that that's 100% correct. And do I hate it? And does it look shitty in attack? Does it look like we're missing something? Absolutely. In transition, does it look like we're missing something? Absolutely. But defensively, Dakota, we're crushing it. So it's hard to argue with the overall philosophy here.
Yeah, I just want to put a name to the things that you just said that we're missing, and the name is Cuti Romero. Changes the complete makeup of everything that we play. We're playing 2-6s because we don't have one of the best center backs in the world in the back line. We're lacking things offensively because we don't have one of the best line-breaking passers from the center back position in the world.
Yeah.
And he brings so much to the table, and it's not new information. We know that. But we're feeling it more, and we're going to see it more, I think, in the Champions League matches, where we're playing a higher quality level of opponent week in, week out, or month in, month out. We are getting everyone's best shot because we're walking into the stadiums with a trophy patch on our sleeve from winning the trophy last year. So Cuti Romero is, I think, the main thing that we're missing, and why we're having to see these changes and playing Bentancur and Polina and all of that stuff that you were just talking about. I think it's Cuti Romero's missing. We're feeling it.
Well, and I think
and I think on the other end of that,
that's to say nothing about how good Kevin Danso has been too, because he has stepped
100%.
in. But he's
shit.
He's a totally different type of player. Like, he's not he's not going to be able to ping the long balls. He's defended really well, and he's a very good in the box defender. But it's just, you're right, Dakota. It's a totally different type of player there, and I do think that the dynamic of Polina and Bentancur is also just hurting everyone up front because they're not getting the service. They're not getting they don't have the ability to press the ball forward because those two guys are not the guys to do that.
So, in just kind of bringing it full circle, I think that the challenge that Frank is facing, and the reason why he's choosing to go with the 2-6s, is twofold, right? It is the lack of Cuti Romero and all of the qualities that he brings to the table, including those line-breaking passes. And we don't really have a quality hold-up player on the front end right now. Solanke's hurt. We've got no Dejan Kulusevski. Xavi Simons is hanging on for dear life, and we're missing James Maddison. So, like, when you look at that, it really does make sense why the way that Frank is approaching things in this extremely pragmatic way, which is, well, we're just not going to concede goals. Regardless of what's going on, we're just not going to concede goals, and we'll sort it out. Is it boring as shit? Absolutely. Is it worrying in build-up play? In build-up play, 100%. Do we end up with 0-0 draws when teams sit in against us? Yeah, apparently we do, especially when they're the quality of Monaco. But we're not giving up the loss. We're not losing games, Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and getting back to Vicario, it's not even that Monaco sat in, especially in that second half. They were all over us, but the ability to actually defend and have Vicario do what he did. Vicario prevented 2.68 goals in that game against Monaco.
Crazy.
He's one of five keepers for an English club to make 8+ saves and keep a clean sheet in a Champions League game in the last 10 years. Alisson,
Insane.
Becker, Pope, and De Gea are the others. Just remarkable job by him. And again, we're slicing the crow. We're passing it out here. like I'll even take more because, as the listeners know, I've been more critical on Vicario than anyone, and I think he's had an outstanding last couple of games. I want to zoom out a little bit because of just the Champions League, and we're what are we 3 matches in now to an 8-game group stage. Spurs sit kind of dead in the middle of things. They sit 15th out of the 36 teams. Not a terrible place to be in. They have not lost. They've drawn twice and won once. I do think that the schedule breaks for them a little bit. I mean, they do still have quite a few difficult games. Obviously, a trip to PSG will happen about a month from now. They do get Copenhagen next week at home, which is a good chance to get your 3 points. And then they will also get Slavia Prague in early December at home. So some chances to get some more 3-point matches on the board. But I guess I want to ask if you guys are confident at this point that Spurs can at least get to the playoff round. I'm not even talking about them making the top 8 and bypassing the playoff round, because that was never going to be my expectation. It certainly was last season in the Europa League when they were favored to win the competition, and they accomplished that. But this season, I was just like, let's just get into the playoff round, and I feel pretty good that that's going to happen at this point, as long as the wheels don't come off the bus. How do you guys feel about it?
Yeah, ask me after the Copenhagen match. We need 3 points here. I think that solidifies our chances one way or the other, because, at that point in time, you're likely to get at least a point against Slavia Prague, statistically. And if you lose in Paris, okay, you lost in Paris. That shit happens.
But we didn't lose in Paris last time. I guess
I don't want to talk about
Paris,
it, Dakota. I don't want to fucking talk
Paris,
about it,
Dakota. I think, and I said this at the time, I think that performance kind of is still fueling us in some ways, to just in belief.
You mean from the Super Cup?
Side, yeah, from the Super Cup. Sure. That hey, we can hang with the big boys here. We belong here. This is our space. We're not punching up as much as we think that we are. But yeah, I agree with you, Todd. I think Copenhagen match is going to inform a lot of how things are actually going to shake out. At the end, we need 3 points from there, like you mentioned, and then PSG, just don't lose. And I mean, it's kind of, we're continuing to talk about the European model of success here: win at home, don't lose on the road, and which means we're going to have to steal one away, since we drew at home, and that's either going to be PSG. Or is that the last away match that we have? Is it at PSG?
No, we still play. The last match is at Frankfurt, and that's
at Frankfurt. Okay,
that's another tough one that I think
you
can steal, but it's a tough one to steal. They still play Dortmund at home. They play Frankfurt away, and then, like I mentioned, the
Slavia Prague.
The Slavia Prague game is home as well, and I think I think that one and the Copenhagen one are ones you absolutely must win.
You get 6 points from there. You're feeling really good about yourself, and maybe even giving yourself an opportunity those last couple of match days to push for a bypassing the playoffs, depending on how the rest of the things shake out.
Yeah, the next month, Andrew. The next month is going to determine a lot of our season. You mentioned at the outset that, we're about a quarter of the way through the Premier League season. Well, I don't need to remind everybody. We usually play Chelsea about the 10th game of the season, right? And somewhere in there. And,
Sure enough, that's coming up this weekend.
I'll fucking tell you what, the next month is where our season is. So Chelsea, we play Copenhagen, then Man United, then that scummy lot, then we go to Paris. Yeah. And that all happens in the next month.
And, of course, there has to be an international break thrown right in the middle of all of that, which I mean, I'm so over the This is going to be the 3rd international break of the season. Is that right? It's already
once a month, buddy. Once a month.
November. It's insane. Let's move on to talk a little bit about the Everton match, because I do think there's a little bit more meat on the bone for the Everton match than there was for Monaco. Obviously, there were goals scored in the Everton match. That's part of it. 2 brilliant headed goals by Mickey Van de Ven, obviously, both coming off the set pieces. And then the late goal by Pat Montessar, or excuse me, not by, was it Sarr that scored? Yeah, Sarr.
Yeah, it was.
Headed
goal.
Another headed goal, right. I liked this match, and I also it's also one that makes me. This match kind of summed up Tottenham this season for me, because we saw great success against set pieces, we saw great defending, we saw great success with offensive set pieces, and then just not a whole lot else. Like, that's kind of it felt a little bit like the Monaco game in that sense, but this one was a 3-0 victory, which I know sounds silly, but there was just not much else going on. The weird thing, and I say weird only because it's different, not actually weird, was that he played Mohamed Kudus in more centrally in this game and brought Brennan Johnson into the game on the right, but Mohamed Kudus just kind of drifted right the entire time anyway and clogged the space, which was, I guess, to be expected, but also kind of a strange move. Todd, what was your kind of overall takeaway from this one? Because obviously I'm not here to bitch about a 3-0 victory, but it still felt like there was more to be had from this game.
Well, we don't have a settled offense, Andrew.
Yeah.
We have pieces of an offense. We have parts of a machine that, kind of work independently pretty well. And you've got some of them, sometimes you've seen them put themselves together and work in a cohesive way. And that's been pretty cool, but it's not consistent and it doesn't always lead to something. There's usually something missing on the end. Whether that's the lack of a Dominic Solanke with the hold-up play, as I mentioned, whether that's the lack of, a Kulusevski or a Madison to kind of be that driving force and allow Xavi to kind of roam a little more freely and play more instinctively instead of trying so hard. Like, I'm not sure exactly what it is, Andrew, because I'm not a Premier League manager, but what I know is that this offense is not clicking in the way that it's supposed to. And so the fact that we're getting out of away matches in the Premier League with 3 points is something that I relish right now as we're trying to figure out what's next. Also, and I just want to say this because I watched it with my eyes, Kolomouani is not good.
Oh, I thought you were going somewhere else with that.
Nope. Nope. There's so much that could be that isn't with that guy. And with the striker, it's decision making, right? This right place, right time decision making. I don't know if this is going to take him some time to get up to speed, but it was shocking at moments.
So the one thing I'll say about getting up to speed, I totally agree. I think that's part of the problem. That is that it will take time to get up to speed. I think you're seeing the same thing happen with Xavi Simons because he is certainly not up to speed yet either. He's
getting his ass kicked.
Well, he's also not getting the service. Like he every time he gets the ball, it's like he's being handed something that he knows is not going to happen very, very much the rest of the game. So he's trying like hell to take advantage of it, and that's showing.
Well, I also feel like he's kind of playing for the whistle too, which is tough to see.
Sure, but I think that's also part of what he's going to do because he's a little undersized, and I think he's recognizing that the Premier League is different gravy. Like there's a different type of ball that's played in England than is played elsewhere. I get what you're saying about Kolomouani. I do think it's extremely early days still. He's obviously coming back from this mysterious dead leg, which somehow kept him out for like a month, or maybe even it was more than that. So I liked what I saw from him because I liked that he was trying stuff. I feel like hold-up play is something we're always going to bitch about because we watched Harry Kane for so many years do majestic things, and now we haven't had a striker be able to do that kind of, magic-like stuff with the ball. So we're always going to complain a little bit about that. But I think he was at least trying some things. He had the one layoff to Xavi, in fact, that I thought was going to come off for a really brilliant shot and goal. There's creativity there. I see stuff going on, and honestly, to me, it's part of the reason that Mohamed Kudus has come in to this team and looked like he's been here for years. He's done this in the Premier League before. These other guys have not. So there's still a lot for that. I'm leaning a lot on that still, as I want to see this progress over time.
Well, I'm just looking at it. 20 more minutes. He played 20 more minutes in that Everton match than the rest of the season combined.
Right.
So
and that's fair.
We're getting there.
I'm looking at this going, we're missing our number one striker and two of our starting 11 and two additional members of the starting 11, and they're forward players, and we look that way. I guess is how it feels. You know what I mean? So it's like I don't want to chop this too thinly. Right? Because ultimately it's, when you add the creative players back into your lineup that would start ordinarily, so then Xavi Simons is able to come off the bench or start, at midweek instead of, starting away at Everton in every minute in the Champions League or whatever, it changes the complexion of our team and it changes the continuity of the type of football we're able to play.
Yeah. Oh, real quick, first away team to win at the Hill Dickinson. Let's not overlook that.
No,
that place was
the
rocking.
mini Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
I was going to say, you mean the slightly less capacity Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Which, good for them. Like, they've got a nice shiny new building, and I'm happy for them. I'm also glad that Goodison Park is still being utilized by Everton's women's team. Like, I'm glad that that's a thing. But yes, first team to win there away. I like that. I guess getting back to the conversation about the ball progression, I think that's been the big thing that Spurs fans have been reaching out for. They want more build-up play, more ball progression, more action from open play, which we have not seen. We've seen this slight reliance on set pieces, which we saw in this game. I don't even... I know they scored a goal from open play late with Sarr's header, but that was when the game state was well different, and the game was well more open in the final 30 minutes or so than it was early on. When a game is not as open, we don't have a guy. Not only do we not have a guy who can get a key to unlock, we don't know where the keys are. Like there's no way we can even find the keys. We've left them in some dresser somewhere, and we've got to go get them. I think that what you're saying, Todd, is right. We're missing a lot of players. We're missing Solanke. We're missing Kulusevski. We're missing Madison. We're also doing things by choice, like starting Bentancur and Paulinho, or like starting Jed Spence more on the left, where I think is another conversation. Not that I'm down on Jed Spence at all. He's a great defender, and he's going to be in the England team, but he's not progressing the ball from that wing. In this match specifically against Everton, for some reason, we slotted Porro back a little bit more defensively, and we're relying on him to link play with Brennan Johnson down the right wing and Mohamed Kudus, who was drifting over there. So it's just like a lot of weird things in that sense that I'm a little bit puzzled by, I guess. And like you said, Todd, neither of us are Premier League managers. Thomas Frank's been doing this a lot longer and a lot better than any of us have. But I'm just, and obviously they got the job done. It's a 3-0 victory, and you wipe your hands and move on. But I'm still like, I'm crying out for something a little bit different, and I don't exactly know what that is, Dakota.
You want the players that we're missing to come back.
Well, also,
that's what you're crying out for.
I'm going to speak on behalf of our buddy Scott here, because if he was here, he would say, Andrew, we know where the keys are. They're in Pop Matar Sarr's pocket, and he's sitting on the bench. And again, I think that goes back to the conversation that we kicked the pod off with is Cuti Romero's not back there, so you don't feel as strong defensively. And Destiny Udogi's not back there, who is more defensive than Jed Spence. So you feel the need, our pragmatic manager, which is what we were crying out for last year. It's here. And it looks like this, playing 2 6s and giving up some ball progression and relying a little bit more on set pieces and it looking sloppy, but still going away and get 3-0 wins in the Premier League, being third in the Premier League, 1 point off of second. It looks like that until we can get some of these guys back. And I don't know if FOTMOB is reliable or what sort of inside information they have, but according to them, Dan Kulusevski and Dominic Solanke are due back early November. So I don't believe that because that's contrary to everything else that we've heard.
Yeah,
but when those two guys come back,
days, I don't know about all that either.
When those two guys come back, whenever that is, or even when Cuti can get back in, or Destiny, any 4 of those guys gets back into this squad, we're gonna see some alleviation of all of the things that we're talking about right now.
So I think that's true from a rotation standpoint and from a health standpoint. I don't know that it's just as simple as plug Dejan Kulusevski in here and plug Destiny Udogi in here and Dominic Solanke can play up top and everybody's just going to be kumbaya every day. I think that it's going to take them time as well, not only to get up to their fitness levels, but
For sure, yeah.
to get used to playing under a new manager, to get used to playing in a new system, because they haven't been doing it for the last few months like these other guys have. I guess.
I mean, that's fair, but they have been in film. Yeah, they've been in film. And they know what this is. They're leaders on the team. They're there. They're pros. They know what this system is. Like, Frank and Kulusevski are very familiar with one another. Like, there's no, I don't know, man. I don't think that there's going to be that much. Dom Solanke played in the system already. Like, he knows what this is. Like, I don't think there's going to be that much lag time with Solanke and Udogie.
Run way shorter with this particular set of players.
Yeah, Dejan Kulusevski and James Madison, that's obviously that timeline is significantly longer. So.
Well, especially with Madison. I'm not expecting to see Madison on the pitch this season. Kulusevski, we kind of think...
Champions League final, maybe.
Well, sure. We can dream about that for sure. I also think the thing I'm worried about a little bit is, like, the Dom Solanke injury was such a weird one, and then all of a sudden he had surgery. We don't know what he's going to be coming back off of that. Destiny Udogie can't seem to stay healthy whatsoever, which is a strange one. I know that Thomas Frank said that Pap Sarr is not dealing with an injury issue when he was asked about it last week, but that's been, I'll also kind of speak for Scott here. That's been a little bit of a weird omission, that Sarr has not gotten as many minutes as he was getting earlier in the season. I know that he's been through a lot. I know he lost a friend, a young Senegalese football player, passed away last week, and that's why we saw the very muted celebration. At least that's what we're all choosing to believe, I think. And I think that there's a lot of moving parts within this team, and I guess taking a step back, I do want to have some appreciation for the fact that Thomas Frank has been able to manage all of these moving parts, healthy bodies, not healthy bodies, new system, more pragmatism, all of those
games
things. Games every which way, and Spurs sit where they do. Like, as much as I'm sitting here saying I want more, I want to see a little bit more of a spark offensively. I want to see less reliance on the set pieces. Although I will also say, it's really nice to have a manager who cares about set pieces, because look at the difference that it can make. Like, it makes one hell of a difference.
The only reason why that scummy bunch across town is at the top of the table is because of set pieces.
Exactly.
So,
and cheating. But set pieces too.
They're dog shit. Fuck those guys.
Well, but you know what? I'll take being at the top of the table if it means you've got to rely on set pieces. Like, I'll do that.
Nah, dude, I can't. Nope, I can't. Listen, I said under Jose Mourinho, if you give me 33 1-0 victories, I'll be happy. And I was a liar, Andrew. I tried that, and I can't. I can't do it.
I
can't.
Man.
I can't do it. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'd be okay with a bunch of set piece goals for the rest of the season. I'm not that guy, dude. You wear the Tottenham shirt, you play the Tottenham way.
I agree with you. There was a piece in The Athletic this week, which I fully admit I did not get a chance to read yet, but it was by your boy, Jack Pickbrook, and it spoke about that. It spoke about the fact that Tottenham fans are going to crave more than just winning, which I know sounds silly to some extent, but you want to do it in a certain way. That is what this club has always been about. It's been about playing on the front foot. And that's not to say that this is way different than what we saw under Mourinho. This is not low block and counter football that we're seeing. It's just a more
but it's boring.
Pragmatic. Yes, it is to some extent. I agree with
you. No, because we don't have any teeth, Andrew. If it was pragmatic and we had people scoring goals on the front end, we wouldn't feel this way. But the problem is we're not scoring goals. We're playing for corners. And then you play for corners, and then you operate out of the set piece, and we're pretty effective at that, which is nice. So we win ball games. But it's boring. And I don't think we can get past that. That's where we are.
So that kind of takes me into what I wanted to talk about, like, from a big picture standpoint, because we are now about a quarter of the way season through the Premier League year. And like Dakota mentioned, Spurs sit third. They're 5 points off the top. They're a point back of second to a team that they lost to 1-0 at home earlier this season. They're in a really damn good spot.
Second best goal difference in the league.
For everything that's gone on, they're in a damn good spot. And I guess from an expectation standpoint versus where we are, I'm curious if, one, those expectations have changed, or just how we feel about being at this point of the season, again, it's 9 Premier League matches. It's not a huge sample size. And with all the caveats that we've already delivered, being the injury issues, just, new system, new manager, all of those things, personally, I get what you're saying, Todd, and I agree with it 100%. It's been a little boring. It's been a little stagnant. But I'm also like, that's okay, because this is a learning curve. This is a I'm going to use the word that we used for so many years and hated. It's a project to some extent. And you have to, I have to appreciate it at least, because otherwise I'll go crazy if I'm just demanding perfection right away. I don't think we were ever going to get that.
No. And please make no mistake. Like, what I was referring to is the way that we play needing to be the Tottenham way. And I think ultimately that is Thomas Frank's approach, is that's what he wants. We don't have all the pieces at our disposal in order to do that. We're trying to do the best we can with what we have, and it's not good enough because they're not Premier League players yet. They're, the majority of them. So we're lacking in a few key areas. But I would agree. I think the Thomas Frank ethos is one that is front foot football, and once we get all of our horses back, we'll be doing more of that. I also am not naive to the fact that championship teams have to win ugly at times. You're not going to be your best every day, that you step out onto the pitch, but you still got to find a way to win, or at least not lose. And I think that is the benefit of a pragmatic manager like a Thomas Frank, is that we're really good at not losing right now. And that's something that is a breath of fresh air for Tottenham fans. Because we were really, really good at losing under Ange.
Yeah, they've lost 2 games all season, and we kind of know why. Like, he got the setup wrong against Bournemouth, and they just didn't play very well. And obviously we know that Bournemouth are a pretty good team. They were last year. They have been again this year. And then they lost the game to Villa, which we all saw what happened in that match too. They just lost control of it. And also, I'm not going to call Villa a scrub team either. I think they're a decent squad. So it's not like, and it sucks that both of those things happened at home, but those are the 2 defeats through however many, what has it been, 14, 15 total games, something like that?
We've been one of the best road teams in the league this year.
Yeah. I want to touch on that real quick, because that's something that I had a conversation with a friend about a few days ago. But really quick, I looked at the table. We've scored the most goals in the league, in league play. That's crazy, because we're sitting here talking about we need to score more goals. We've scored more than anybody else, which I didn't know, and I would not have guessed that. But I think there's something to this play well on the road, kind of struggle at home thing. And I think even Thomas Frank mentioned it after the last game against Everton. And I can't help but wonder if the amount of pressure that the team feels to win at home, to make that place a fortress, and the fans being what they are inside of that stadium, I wonder, and it seems like it's harder for our team to play loose and free at home than it is on the road. Which
it's
I think
hard when you're not scoring goals. It's hard.
Yeah.
You handed the fans their first European trophy in 41 years, less than 6 months ago. They're still rabid, and you're handing them 0-0, matches. It's hard. It's hard. They want more, especially at home.
Well, and to your point, that was 6 months ago, and I'll use the word again. Now they've entered a new phase. It's a new project because they did change the manager. And not only did they change the manager, they've changed just about everything above the manager, too, within the club. Like, there's been a lot of change at this club over the last 6 months since winning that trophy. And I'm not here to say that's a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. You have to make changes to go forward. You have to progress. Yeah. But the fans are, I think, maybe not recognizing that this is very new to everyone. And there are going to be growing pains, just natural growing pains. And for me, if I sit and look at that table and I see 17 goals to 7 given up and a third place right now, 9 games in, I'm sitting here thinking, what growing pains? But we all still do watch the matches, and we all feel it still. So there is that sense of like, I want this to be better, but also it's not. It has not been that bad.
Yeah.
No, but
for me,
it's also
expectations wise, all the change that you just talked about, Andrew, I came in with my what feels like regular expectations for Spurs for the last few years because we've been changing managers every year. Like, finish top half and be competitive in the cups. But now, 9 games in, 15 games in through whatever for the whole entire season, we should be playing in Europe next year, not just because we win a European trophy, but because we've earned it through our place in the league.
Sure.
Specifically Champions League football. We should finish 5th or above and still be able to be competitive in the cups. Maybe you don't win one, play in a final, finish top 5, top 6.
That what you just said is key to me there, and I wanted to get into that expectation conversation, because you're saying before the season your expectation was finish top half, and now you're saying finish top 5, which is different than top half. So you're saying that your expectations have been elevated by this start, which is saying something, because we've been sitting here talking about how we've been struggling to watch this team because of these things. Todd, where are you at with where your expectations? Because I'm in a similar place. My expectations were actually a little bit higher than Dakota. I thought this was a top 7-ish team, and I kind of haven't changed off of that. I still think they're probably in the 6-7 range at, for where I would expect them to. I think they have a higher ceiling, but I don't think the floor is much lower than that. Where are you at with where your expectations were to where they have gotten to now, a quarter of the way into the Premier League season?
PTSD, Andrew. We haven't had the Chelsea match yet. Everything changes after the Chelsea match. I don't fucking know. We were top of the table. We hadn't lost a match, and then the Chelsea match 2 years ago. Right. I'm also not naive, and I can zoom out and look at the fact that, yes, we had a 17th place finish last year because of the ridiculous injury situation that we found ourselves in. But the year before that, basically the same roster was 5th in the league. So like you look at that and you go, okay, my expectations going into this were what they always are, which is Europe and a trophy. Like, I know we're not going to, especially until we start changing the way that we spend, the idea of winning the league is silly. I want to have good campaigns. I'd love to win an FA Cup, but ultimately Europe and a trophy is what a fan of a team like Tottenham Hotspur should aspire to every year. And so that's where I'm at. I'm good on the League Cup, though. And I just want to touch on this real quick, because if you had asked me this last year, I would have been like, oh, God, I need a piece of trophy. I don't care what it is. Make it silver. It doesn't matter. Now, I could give a fuck about a League Cup right now. Like, I just don't, like, it just does not move me. And I don't know. I don't think I'm alone in that as Tottenham fans.
Well, we mentioned at the top of the show, we mentioned even before we started recording, we all kind of feel like the Newcastle away draw makes this kind of like a free hit. Like, if you win it, awesome. You're going to progress to the 5th round, and what is that? That gets you down, I guess, to the quarterfinals or maybe the round of 16, something like that.
Somewhere in there, yeah.
At that point, you're in it. Like, if you get past Newcastle away in order to advance in the League Cup, bully for you. I'm all on board. Let's go try and actually make a run. But if they lose the match, I'm also I'm the same way as you. I'm just like, okay. And I expect rotation. I expect like as much as they can rotate to this point. Like, again, they don't have the bodies. They don't have the great amount of depth, especially defensively right now, that they would want to have going into a stretch like this, because the next 10 to 12 days, there are still like another 4 matches before the next international break. So they got to play a lot of these games still with the lack of depth. But going into this match, I'm very much like, I'm going to come home from work tomorrow. I'm going to flip the game on, and I'm going to see, and I'm going to watch, and I'm going to be engaged. But if they go out and, pee down their leg, I'm not going to be that upset about it, because, again, the League Cup, I agree with you. They tasted silverware last year. They don't need to go win a League Cup this year to prove anything. If they do it, awesome. but they don't need to do it to prove something. And I completely concur with your take on that.
Plus, we have Chelsea at the weekend. And I'm asking you right now, Chelsea in the league, Newcastle in the cup, which one would you prefer to win?
It's not even a question. It would be Chelsea in the league.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even. It's
Same.
not even remotely close to a question. It would be Chelsea in the
Every
league.
time.
In fact, as I look at the fixtures coming up, I mean, I'm gonna personally remove the Copenhagen match next week out of the, because I think they should beat Copenhagen at home. I'm sorry. All respect to those folks. I think they should win that game. But if you talk to me about Chelsea at home and Man United at home, I want at least 4 points out of those matches more than I want anything out of the Newcastle Cup match, because those league matches are going to be really important, especially because, and we just got done talking about this, they're at home. That whole thing that Dakota's talking about with the needing to make that place a fortress, that is real to me. I do think that there is something to be said for Spurs need to play better at home. I love what they're doing away from home. I think it's great. I would long may it continue. But Spurs definitely need to put on some good performances for in front of their fans at home. Not for the fans, for themselves. Like they need to go out and do that for themselves. We have not seen a lot of that this season. We've seen a little bit of it, but we haven't seen a lot of it this season. And we've seen
we need our front four to score goals.
Right, but how do they do that without the ball? That's the problem.
All right, you may have a point.
That is the problem. But that's kind of where we're at, and the games are not going to stop. And we're just here to talk about them, my friend. That's all we're going to do. Again, Saturday is way more key than Wednesday, and honestly, the following Saturday, I think it's Saturday against United, is far more important than it is well. Like you have to win these home games, both in the league and in the Champions League, if you want me to take you seriously this season. And I would very much like to take Tottenham Hotspur seriously this season. Like I took them seriously in a cup run last year, but we could not take them seriously in the league. I would love to be able to watch Premier League games into the month of May and have them matter.
Well, that starts with not losing. It starts with not losing, Dakota, and it's something where we haven't done a good job of not losing in the last few years. We've done a lot of losing, and I think that Thomas Frank is the type of manager that helps you not lose. So I like where we're at.
I like that idea, Todd. Let's just not lose. Let's just throw losing out the window and see what happens. Let's just see what happens.
Imagine that.
It sounds so silly, but also just so practical as well.
Yeah.
It's not something you could have thought about under the previous manager. You had to go win the game, but now you can have that mindset of just even with the League Cup game. Hell, get that thing penalties. Take your chance. Like I'm fine with that.
Sure.
Just don't lose it after the 90 minutes. Like I'm down.
Oh, we better see fucking Kinski tomorrow. Oh my days.
That would be nice. We
just talked about how hot Vicario's been. Do you take the gloves off
we
a
get
hot
Chelsea
keeper?
at the weekend. Yes.
Do you take the gloves off a hot keeper?
For a League Cup match? Yes.
For anything, dog. We know how keepers are like picky. Do you let him sit and not get that game to keep that thing rolling? Do you take the chance?
I think that Kinski can come into the team against Copenhagen next week and be just fine, because they're going to need, at home against Copenhagen, you're going to need to have more authority and more progression of the ball, and Kinski will help you with that more than Vicario will. If you're going to St. James Park and you're going to be facing some shots, and I want a shot stopper in goal, so I'm fine with Vicario keeping the gloves at this point, but I do think there's going to be a lot of rotation. I certainly think we're going to see the likes of Archie Gray and Popstar back on the team, and those types of bodies. But quickly before we wrap up here, I feel like we kind of might have glided over Mickey Van de Ven's performance against Everton.
Oh my goodness!
Because I kind of want to give that guy his flowers. We all know
wearing the armband.
Wearing the armband in Cootie's absence, and we all kind of know like what he's meant to this club, but God damn, is he finding his real, like, not only is he finding his goal scoring niche, but like he's just so good defensively still. He is doing it all right now, and I just kind of want to give him his flowers for that, and I don't feel like we did enough of that.
I think
First
that there
time a
was
center
lot
back scored a
of,
brace, Dakota. First time a center back scored a brace since Jan Vertonghen. Like
Thank you for
2016.
that segue, Todd. Because when we signed Mickey Van de Ven, everybody was like, "Oh, Jan Vertonghen." No, but for real.
But really,
2 years in, for real though.
yeah, there's a goal scoring knack to him, which there was a little bit there with Vertonghen, at least from a goal contribution standpoint. And the guy is he's just there. He's just a presence. Not only is he fast as shit, which we all know, but he's a presence in the box, and he really has been that the last few games, especially in the absence of Cudi Romero, and I think that that's really, really crucial.
Well, I want to shout that out because that's one of the things that that you've always been able to hang your hat on with Cudi is that he's the guy that makes the other guys walk taller when he's on the pitch. And I think in his absence, we've really kind of missed someone like that. And God love Kevin Danzo. He's Spurs through and through. I'm very much warming to Kevin Danzo. I like that guy a lot.
Danzo. I think he's awesome.
And I think that Mickey being able to know that Danzo has his back has allowed him to kind of puff his chest out a little bit and play that Romero role in his absence. So it's been pretty cool. We have legitimately 3 elite center backs at our club right now, and that's pretty cool.
Yep. I need Mickey, now that he's scored a few, he should know, like, you got to act like you've been there before in your brain, and I need him to have the wits to do one of these next time he puts one in the net.
Hit him with a super yawn?
I
Goodness.
just need
Okay.
I had to double check this, and I should have done this before we started recording. I'm pretty sure if you include the Super Cup and all competitions this season, I think Mickey Van de Ven is the team's leading scorer at this point because he
is. That's true.
He scored in the Super Cup, right? He and Cudi both.
I
Scored
think
in the Super Cup.
followed closely by own goal, possibly.
Yeah, that's probably right.
yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
That
It's the Spurs way.
But also speaks to what we've been talking about now for 45 minutes, is that we're getting everything from our defense and nothing from our offense, which is how it's going right now. But again,
we mentioned briefly Javi Simons. He gets in the same spots that Sonny used to get into, where he cuts in on that right foot, but he's got to start letting him rip. He's got to start letting him rip.
I agree with you. I think that I saw, and that's kind of what I was talking about with he and Kolomwani in this Everton match. I saw a little bit of that confidence building, I felt like, in this match, despite the fact that nothing came from it. I did see a little bit of the pattern starting to work there. And I don't know if that has anything to do with the fact that he played kind of a weird front four with Spurs in the middle, but also drifting out far to the right and being in Brennan Johnson's space all the time. Like, it was a bit of a strange dynamic with everyone in that front four, but I was starting to see a little bit of the patterns there, and that does excite me. And I totally agree. I think Xavi I think he's going to come good. You can see that there's a footballer in there. Decision making needs to be better, and honestly, he needs to figure out how to play bigger than his body is, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like, he needs to.
No, that's very fair.
Figure out how to have more of a presence in this league, because he's going to get pushed around if he doesn't.
When James Madison starts coming around a little bit more, I think he's going to help Xavi with that a lot. He's so good at that.
I absolutely agree. And that's – he's also going to teach Xavi how to draw a foul in the Premier League. And it's different than the Eredivisie, and it's different than Germany. And, like, you have to – everybody's so big, strong, and fast. If it makes it look like – even the slightest bit that you're out of control, they're not going to blow the whistle for you. And he hasn't learned that yet. So if you remember Sonny's first season, you could see glimpses of brilliance, but it took him a little while to put it all together. And I like you, Andrew, think that Xavi is going to come good. He does get into those spots. He needs to learn what part of the net he needs to be able to hit in the Premier League in order to score goals, because it's a lot smaller of a window than it is in other leagues in the world. And that's the thing, is that he's put a lot of balls on frame that have just been saved by keepers in the Prem. So I don't know. I think that he will go back and look at the tape, and he seems like the type of guy that will do his homework. Like, he will be better. It's just a matter of time.
Looking forward to it. Looking forward to the matter of time progressing with this whole thing, what we've been talking about. Again, it's been good, but it can be better, which is saying something because it's been pretty damn good when you look at the results and everything that we have out in front of us. So I really do like that. Again, Newcastle in the League Cup this week, Chelsea at the weekend, which, my goodness, my brain is already starting to hurt even thinking about that. Spurs women also back in action this weekend. They returned from the international break with a home match on Sunday against Liverpool. That should be a good test because Liverpool have not been good this season, so we'll see if Spurs women can get another 3 points on the board in the WSL. We will be back with you all next week to talk about it all. Hopefully a little bit more regular on the weekends going forward. We're going to see how that goes. See if we can gather everyone around the campfire and talk some more Spurs. But be sure to check out our episodes on our YouTube page, youtube.com/Tottenham Depot. Leave us a rating and review on your podcast app of choice to help spread the word about the show. You can follow Todd at TC_Show on the socials. You can follow Dakota at Dakota J. Booth. You can follow me at A. Stetka. But most importantly, follow us at Tottenham Depot wherever you are on the socials. We are there as well. And follow us at Tottenham Depot going forward. We will talk to you next week. This has been the Tottenham Depot podcast. As always, come on, you Spurs.